Yes. Only small part I'm saying.
Tell them the solution. That the earthwork be done under Narega and concrete work they can continue.
அரசு அலுவலர்கள் விவசாயிகள் எந்த வகையிலும் சந்திக்கிறதில்லை. வரக்கூடிய அரசாங்கம் வழங்கக்கூடிய மானியத்தை விவசாயிகளுக்கு
அதிகாரிகளில் ஒரு ஏக்கரா நிலம் கொடுத்து அது எவ்வளவு லாபத்தை எடுக்கிறார் அப்படின்னு எடுத்துட்டாங்கன்னு வச்சுங்க, அப்போ விவசாயிகளுக்கு எவ்வளவு லாபம் கிடைக்குது, அவங்களுடைய நிலைமை என்னன்றது
same way in which we are individually behaving. We do have expectations that officers should be doing very nice, but whenever there is a chance, I also do same thing.
Because we need to address the issue. Because there are lots of people who are already
trying to highlight the vacancies in each organization.
This is a fact. You can compare anywhere. Select
I have a very interesting analysis of the exercise we have done. This is on system challenges. We elaborately discussed on the system challenges posed by the system for any transformation issues. The first question was, do you think that there is a need for change in the public sector practices? Almost 100% of the participants have agreed that there is a need for changing the public sector practices. The second question was, do you think obstacles or obstructions to change can be won or overcome? Almost 95% of the people have agreed that these challenges can be overcome, and 5% is in this. And are you willing to initiate change in your organization at your level and support it? Almost 98% of the participants have agreed.
I think in our group we discussed on the first table on conventional wisdom the whole issue of trust. Actually, where are we in trust? This is the key fundamental foundation of our interactions. If we take the discussion this morning of HCL, IBM, where they put the customer first, then they don't do that out of nothing. They build the trust of the customer. What I think came out of that group and was coming out further in the last group on system challenges was the whole issue of responsibility to accountability to oversight. Are those clear in our own job? Are they clear in the organization? Do we want them to be clear? Because obviously if they're clear, then it's much more difficult to hide from them. Moving to the subaltern review, here's some excellent points being raised by our friends, giving really the grassroots perspective. And are we always listening to those? Do we take those into account when we do our planning? In fact, I think for each of the four groups, it got very heated at times, because this is the reality. This is why we're doing this work. It's ultimately to impact on people's lives.
I feel personally I'm very happy because these people are practicing people-friendly approaches in their day-to-day problems. So they are very happy as an officer, as an individual, as people.
And the president, Mrs. Kalavadi, she told me that the intervention of the CMG, she openly told that now, even if I face the election, immediately I will be the next president.
Be acting on a certain set of values. So the change management program was trying to change the ways in which people were acting, changing themselves and changing their relationship to one another as a community.
This is an independent assessment of the ground situation that was carried out. The Institute of Sustainable Development, Chennai, Dr. Rama Saraswati is from there. Mr. Kripakaran was in charge of the field team. I was helping them. We had an independent set of researchers. We went to 40 villages, all TNIM Warm project villages, but divided into two groups. 22 villages where TNIM Warm officials from 8 departments had received change management training.
applications at a national level are being designed, and I would say all the 30 major applications would be available in 24 months. UID would be launched in 24 months. GIS would be available in 24 months. The key is for state governments to begin to recognize that they need to take the lead. And this will require redoing a lot of the stuff we have done in the last 4 or 5 years. Because most of the stuff we have done is not web-based. It's not based on cloud computing. We need to really create new ways of using them. So we are creating 4 major data centers at the national level.
Now, the changes which has come or which is likely to come, it is only because of two in a trigger which I can say. One is what Government of India started, IMIS. That means all the information requires to be put on net and no money will come. So that was one of the pressure tactics used by Government of India, which triggers some type of innovation and change in the mindset itself. The second thing was that people becoming more vocal and raising questions about that they do not want to tolerate whatever the situation we are in. I think the lessons from leading the change which needs to come, one is about the people. More number of the people needs to be trained. We have started training right from the watermen to the down above level. We have just started as a big exercise on this. We have been doing it, but not in a systematic way. So I think that is a lesson that involve both people and the processes will change on that.
So what I am interested to say that if you want in any department, you can make a lot of changes. Actually, if you package the scheme well, and if you can convince the ministers, you can convince the staff, convince the officers who are working with you, I think it is not impossible to have new schemes and implement them for the betterment of the people, and we can definitely help the people who have been already excluded from different schemes. Thank you.
In my personal opinion, public sector is probably the most efficient sector. The only thing is that it doesn't get recognized, doesn't get rewarded, and therefore here most of us being public functionaries, my appeal to all of you is don't lose heart. Any good man is bound to get brickbats from the rest of the pool if they are not as good as he or she is, and therefore you should take it as a process of change of mindset of the rest of the people. Thank you.
The perception that there is no service delivery guarantee by public sector, I think if we go ahead with commitment, what we could do in Amravati, we have another case in Badlapur, and we have target of all those 25 urban water supply schemes that we run, we do it one, that we will go 24/7 in next 24 months.
The more difficult thing which the organization needs to have is commitment of its members to the goals of the organization. Now this is something which money can be printed, technology can be manufactured, delivered, installed. A lot of things can be done, but commitment is something which is very internal to a human being. And how do you create commitment? If there was a magic which could produce commitment in members of the organization, I think we could do effective service delivery.
You need to create a mental space more than a physical space. A mental space wherein you can do this exercise.
Fellow members, the responsibility is how you deliver. How do you deliver?
See, it depends upon the man occupying the chair.
Yeah.
So if I am occupying a chair and of course delivering water to you, so my responsibility and role both are there that water should come to you. If I am a teacher, if I have to teach you, and my responsibility over after the teaching is over.
This is a space in which the realness and the honesty and the authenticity that we have been calling for the past 2 days is able to be actualized, lived, experienced, and practiced repeatedly over the course of several days. It is in the Mutram space that people are able to reassess who they are and who they are together in relationship with one another. We call this building social capital, and building something that can really take us forward, a new type of community. This process strikes me as particularly important because it is a process of creating the we and the us. It's emphasized again and again every of the 4 spaces that we went to, that essentially what we see happening is people are changing their whole identity of who they are and how they relate to one another. Once the trust is built, the worldview changes. Once the worldview changes, the question changes. Once the question changes, the solution changes. And so we start seeing new solutions that are then able to be carried out.
In the Jurudi awareness, Mashal Peri and these, and then social mapping. With this, we experienced in Maharashtra, it triggers the community.